We're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
question.
You're good.
All right, damn, man. Crazy. I don't know what's going on with my microphone. I might have to get it fixed, I guess. This is like third straight show where I've had microphone issues. So I want to apologize for us being late. Usually we're on time. Jeremy's going to have to host the show because we have a private chat in here on the actual video source that we use. And I've lost all the information we're going to talk about. Most of it I know. But Jeremy's probably going to have to host the show. But I think what we want to talk about is obviously injuries first, kind of get those out of the way. It's we don't want to go into speculation, but it sounds like obviously Junior Angilau, Isaiah Nayer, Alfred Collins, and Roschon Johnson were injured in the first scrimmage. Some of them probably more serious than the others, but I definitely don't want to speculate until Coach Sarkisian comes out tomorrow and actually gives us an update on those. Because it could be anywhere from a week to 6 weeks to a season. So we will talk about, the possibility if these injuries are there. We'll talk about how they could affect each position group. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, punctuality is important to us. I think that comes from being in the military. You're always taught to be 10 minutes early or you're late. And so, yeah, it's kind of weird when we go on at 3:33 when we're supposed to go on at 3:30. But so happy you're here with us. Currently 39 folks in here watching us. Yesterday's show, the prelude to the scrimmage was really, really cool. Enjoyed doing that and talking to you guys. And now coming out of it, like Clint said, we got injuries that we don't want to speculate until MRI results come back. And the team, releases that information. But the key guys to me are the guys that are on the thumbnail. And then, of course, Junior Angilau as well, but you can't fit so many guys on that little bitty screen. So Isaiah Nayer and Roschon Johnson. Isaiah Nayer gave you something to this wide receiver core that you haven't really had in a while since L.J. Humphrey and Colin Johnson left, which is size and speed combination on the outside to couple with Xavier Worthy. And like Clint said, we don't really know the length of his injury at this point. But to discount that injury would be detrimental to this show, and we understand the seriousness of losing him because again he was projected to be in that second team all conference coming from Wyoming. He was on the Biletnikoff Award watch list for a reason. And if he is lost for a significant amount of time, that means guys like Jordan Whittington, Tariq Milton. I read where somebody wrote Tariq Milton now no longer becomes a luxury in the timeline that for Savion Red and Brendan Thompson will probably be pushed up in their opinion. That was Jeff Howe from 247 wrote that, and I agree with him. And then Roschon Johnson, I read a comment a little bit early before the show started, said Jonathan Brooks is a better back than Roschon Johnson. And I don't know that that's true. I've watched Jonathan Brooks run the ball last year. I watched Jonathan Brooks run the ball in the spring game. And if you want to tell me he's a more as effective of a running back as Roschon, I'll give you that. But what I don't know is he going to be a better pass blocker? Does he give you that wildcat that Roschon Johnson gives you? And I know that he doesn't give you that I know Roschon does, and that's leadership. And leadership off the field and on the field is two different things. Like I could be a leader in the locker room. I could be a leader on the sidelines, but it means something more when that leader is producing on the football field. So that's how I answered the Jonathan Brooks versus Roschon Johnson and him being a better back. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Clint, your opinion and your thoughts on the injuries.
Yeah, I think
Junior.
Yeah, in Junior. And I think, first and foremost, you feel bad for these guys, man. Junior Angilau, you're talking about a guy that's been around the program for a while. Obviously NFL aspirations. Wanted to be able to come in and play, and they've been playing him at center because I think they saw him as a center, both in NFL and on the 40 acres. But again, you've got a room that's inexperienced, that's young, that's talented, that already started stepping up into that 2 deep and so on and so forth. And we'll get to some of the comments that were made out of the scrimmage itself later on the show. But when you're talking about Isaiah Nayer, a guy coming from Wyoming, coming here, was going to be your number one wide receiver, 1A, 1B with Isaiah Nayer, and then Jordan Whittington there. I think you're going to have a guy like 𝗟𝗓𝗏 that's going to have to step up. A guy that's 6'3", 215 pounds, just like Isaiah Nair. It's almost like you put him in bubble wrap at this particular point, right? And save his body. How long does a Jai Hall stay out suspended is another question. So I think you still have talented wide receivers in that room. Again, we don't want to speculate on what specific injury Isaiah Nair has or the length of time he'll be out. Hopefully it comes back better news than bad. But from a wide receiver room, I think you have the depth there. I think you've got guys that have been in the system, that have been on the 40 acres for a while, to be able to pick up the pieces there. Then you're talking about I've lost my train of thought here. 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗦𝗨𝗕𝗦𝗖𝗥, Nair, and then Roschon, like to talk about from a leadership standpoint, from on the field, being able to will his team to victory. One of those guys is going to take a 2-yard run and he's going to give you 4 or 5 yards because he's leaning forward when you need that. A guy that you can go to short yardage. A guy that's actually a really good blocker for Bijan Robinson, a 2-back set. That gives you an opportunity either, block for him as a damn fullback or, spread both of those guys out. And now you have 5 wide and they both can catch the ball. So we'll kind of see where it goes. Again, we'll kind of see after the press conference tomorrow how significant these injuries are. But obviously you can't bubble wrap football players in spring. You can't bubble wrap them in the middle of a scrimmage and say, hey, by the way, no contact. Because you have to get as many of these reps in as you can. You got to think about Isaiah Nair came in the spring. He definitely needed the reps, especially from a quarterback wide receiver standpoint. So we'll kind of see where it goes from there.
And what we haven't seen or heard is if there were non-contact injuries. Because like you said, these guys got to get the reps. And the best way to get the reps is in scrimmage setting, going against mano-a-mano against the other side of the football. But you've heard that these are the injuries, but you don't know how they occurred. You don't know if they were contact injuries or non-contact injuries. But let's shift focus off injuries real quick and talk about that offensive line. Like you talked about Junior possibly, sliding over to center and taking Jake Major's spot. But yesterday, the ones that lined up initially from reports were Andrej Karic, Hayden Conner, Jake Majors, Cole Hudson, and Christian Jones, with Kelvin Banks splitting most of the first team reps with Andrej Karic. Your thought on that initial line of Karic, Conner, Majors once Junior went out, and then Cole Hudson and Christian Jones? Because as I see it, that's one true freshman and one that's splitting time at left tackle. And those two guys we've been talking about since we dropped the offensive line position preview. So
what you see it as is one true freshman that's splitting reps with a sophomore in Hayden Conner and another true freshman in Cole Hudson, and then Christian Jones. I think the good thing about Hayden Conner is he can move out or move inside, I think he's probably your most versatile player, offensive lineman at this point. If you go back and look at it last year, leading up to, at the end of the season, into the spring game, he had time at guard and time at left tackle in the spring game. So I think he's your most versatile guy. You can push him to the left side, to the right side, to guard, to tackle. Hell, he may be able to play center. I'm not sure. But to me, if Junior 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗏 goes out, now you're looking at Hayden Conner playing that left guard role. Jake Majors, who's your already starting center, Junior 𝗟𝗓𝗓𝗏𝗏 had played center, had taken some first team reps at center, pushing Jake Majors for that spot because I think, Kyle Flood wants big humans on the field, a whole bunch of big humans. But then you also have Cole Hudson, who's a true freshman that's played right guard for a significant amount of time. Now, obviously, doesn't have game reps, but he's been here early enrollee, played in the spring, has gone through summer, now in the fall, and is currently getting those first team reps. And then we'll see what happens with Christian Jones at that right tackle position. So as it sits right now, I think it's just a matter of when Kelvin Banks takes that left tackle role at this point, be able to come in and move in right away and start taking some of those first team reps, I think is absolutely important. It's just when he actually takes over for that left tackle at that left tackle position. What does it do to Andrej Karic? Does Andrej Karic move out to right tackle and fight against time for Christian Jones? So if they see him as a starter, do you replace Christian Jones? Christian Jones playing better than Andrej Karic, but it's always going to come back to who are your best 5 guys. And it sounded like they had a hard time against that defensive front yesterday. But again, if you read the title, one side has to lose, one side has to win for the other side to lose. And I think when you look at spring or look at scrimmages and you look at the fall, or really the spring game and all that, usually the defense is going to be well ahead of the offense when it comes to plays.
Yeah, that's why the junior injury is going to be so significant in my mind, is because I really like the tackles if they're Christian Jones and Kelvin Banks. And then you got Carrick as a swing tackle working both sides. And then you have Hayden Connor and Cole Hudson inside, because I think guard is their best position for both those guys. And then junior would be the center. But then again, you got Jake Majors, who's played that position 2 years in a row. So, but yeah, I like that line. A guy we haven't heard about that was in that top 20 of players that came into campus this year on the offensive line was DJ Campbell. So we've heard, that his athleticism is there, but it's taken him a little bit of time to transition from tackle to guard. But I really like him in that guard position. If Kelvin Banks is sewed up that left tackle and you got a guy experienced in Christian Jones, just need Christian Jones to step up his level, and hopefully he has from last year's performance to this year. But DJ Campbell sliding from tackle at Arlington Bowie to now inside at guard has taken, from what we understand, a little bit of time to get that transition down.
Yeah, they're actually talking about the tackle. I mean, the tackle that I think it's from Tulsa that the Cowboys brought in last night that's currently playing guard.
Tyler Smith.
Tyler Smith that had like 3 or 4 holds last night for the Cowboys. Not to get into the Cowboys, but he moved in from tackle to guard, and it's moving a lot faster. Things are happening a lot faster, a lot closer to the center versus being out on tackle and being on the island and having to worry about usually just your defensive end and trying to keep them out or try to keep them from getting inside. So I think things are happening a little bit faster. And from what we understand is that the guards are asked to do a lot in this offense, and it's probably a lot of things that DJ Campbell didn't do as a tackle in high school that he's having to do now. It doesn't mean that he's not making progress, and I think before the end of the season, you're probably going to see DJ Campbell. Maybe not. If they feel comfortable with Cole Hudson and they feel really comfortable with Hayden Connor playing right and left guard, we'll kind of see where it works out with DJ Campbell this year. Because again, if you feel comfortable and they're doing what they need to is players right now on the 40 acres, do you replace them with the DJ Campbell? Go ahead, Jeremy.
And I think that's where you got the what the hell when you mentioned DJ Campbell taking snaps at center a couple of weeks ago. But I think they're trying to find that best 5. That's definitely proof they're trying to find that best 5. And if DJ Campbell's part of that best 5, they're going to try to push him into center. And then, because you originally heard that him and 𝗟𝗚𝗓 and Majors were all taking snaps at that center position. So like you said, he's learning, he's improving, he's getting better probably each and every scrimmage and or practice that he attends and learning that new role. But I feel pretty comfortable watching Cole Hudson's performance in the spring game, understanding where he comes from and his family and how hard of a worker he is, and then understanding Hayden Connor's ability to be versatile and move from tackle to guard, and watching him improve from last year, late season, when he was getting snaps through the spring game, and understanding his intellect and aerospace engineering a student, to feel pretty comfortable about those two guys currently sitting in that position.
Richard Walker here. A lot of comments of who won the day between the offense and defense are overblown. The defense has seen the same formations and plays all spring and summer. The defense has had better look good. You know what I'm saying? And it comes down to like interceptions. We talk about these interceptions, right, that these quarterbacks are throwing, and we'll get into that conversation in a minute. But again, if you've seen the same play over and over and over again, you're starting to learn the offenses. You got to think about it. They've seen this same offensive scheme for the last 2 years. So they could probably pick and choose, okay, when they want to be really, really aggressive, understanding what's being called. And I'm assuming that Steve Sarkisian wants his defense to be really aggressive against his offense to see how they react under pressure. But again, trying to figure out who's winning these games, what quarterback was the best. Without actual film, it's hard to tell. And it sounds like there's very little film out there where we can tell which quarterback did the best, or how the offense, the defensive line did against the offensive line. But it did sound like they got pressure. But what happens is that we come out here and we talk, our shows get really negative talking about the defense and how they were unable to apply pressure. But then they apply pressure in the scrimmage. Now you're worried about your offensive line not being very good, because now you're taking your defensive line that wasn't very good last year and saying, well, I just don't know if the offensive line sucks that bad or the defensive line has gotten that much better with the scheme changes that PK is probably made on that side of the ball.
I couldn't not agree more. It's difficult. Like we talked about this pre-scrimmage yesterday. For one unit to lose means the other one is winning. For one player to excel means another one didn't do their job. That's why I was telling Clint right before we came on, 20 days away, and I actually dropped it in the comment section. 20 days away will allow us to really be able to, and really most folks will say 27 days away because they'll discount ULM. It was an easy opponent. We should have dominated, blah, 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 blah. The real test is in 27 days, and that's true. You're playing against a team that played in the national championship last year. So, yeah, it is a true test. But that's what I'm saying. In these closed scrimmages where sourced information, and depending upon who you read, the injuries were significant. The injuries weren't significant. This guy said this. This guy said that. All this stuff is speculation. Again, that's why we're not going to talk about timetable of injuries or what this player did, whether he limped off the field, whether he was carted off the field, whether it's 1 week, whether it's 6 weeks, because everything you read is contradictory and it's subjective. So we'll wait on the team to give us that information. But I agree with you. I mean, like I said, for Quinn Ewers to throw an interception means Jaylon Gill means he probably threw a bad pass, but Jaylon Gilbo stepped up and got the interception. DeMarvion Overshown got a sack. Whose side was it on? Was it on Kelvin Banks' side? Was it Andre Carrick? Was it Christian Jones? Who'd he beat? That's this. But that's why you love doing this, and that's why you love this fan base, is because they care about a closed scrimmage, 3 weeks out from ULM and the significance of what it means what it would mean to lose a guy like Isaiah Nair or Roschon Johnson or Junior Angilau or Jade Barron or Alfred Collins, because they understand the significance of it. So I appreciate it, but at the same time, I'm not going to catastrophize, everything that goes on in the summer. I think it's going to have an impact against Kansas State in November because it may or may not.
Yeah, so I actually like this comment. What pass rush? Sark got after quarterback. I actually like your what pass rush there, Pete Kwiatkowski, in his media availability said what pass rush. Sark got after the quarterback's asses. I heard not good at all. Carter's doing better too. So let's put this into perspective here. Okay, so you got a guy in Quinn Ewers that left his senior year, South Lake Carolina. I'm not taking up for him, but I'm kind of want to put this in perspective. It went to Ohio State, got very little scrimmage snaps when he went to Ohio State, decided to transfer back to Texas. He should be a true freshman this year, according to when he should have came out of high school. He'd be a true freshman. He's in Malik Murphy's class. They both went to the Elite 11 together. And then you have Hudson Card, who, if he's playing his ass off and he's been able to improve where he came from, where he was at last year versus where he's at this year, is absolutely important. You want to have two good quarterbacks that can lead you to wins. That's the second thing. But at the same time, you're talking about a true freshman quarterback going against someone that has been in the system for 2 years and been on the 40 acres for 3 years. There's two different balances here. You know what I'm saying? So to me, if I've been in the system for 2 years and I've been a college quarterback for 3 years, you figured that I would be here and then my true freshman would be here. And Steve Sarkisian is always going to say it best, man. He said it over and over again. He's talking about playing the best players, regardless of what their experience level is or what year they are, that if all things are equal, these guys are throwing interceptions and doing all these other things, they're always going to throw with the guy that has the most upside. And I think that's Sam back there snoring, isn't it, Jeremy?
No, I got Jazz in here.
Okay.
Sam's recovering from his ACL back in the living room. He kind of does what he wants when he's recovering. But no, I got Jasmine back here. Yeah, I agree with you. Like with 2 years in the system, 3 years on campus, guy whose classification is a true freshman who didn't really get any reps at Ohio State, transferred down. You would like to see, again, I don't care who it is. Like we believe it's going to be Quinn. We've been saying that since he came on campus, that he gives you the bigger upside. But I don't care who it is, as long as they give Texas the best chance to win on Saturdays. That's what I want, and that's with every position across the board. Whoever it is that can allow this team to move the football, score touchdowns, score more points than the other team is exactly what I want, regardless of what name is on the back of the jersey come Saturday. And that's because we're Texas fans. It's a Texas fan channel. That's what we do. But I will take a chance 20 minutes into this show to pub the channel. There's 107 folks in here right now. There's only 37 likes that have been hit, and one of them is me. So please hit that like button before you hit the show, preferably now, so that folks that are not in here currently watching this video will have a chance to see it, because we know the algorithm at YouTube, and that's a must. So please hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to Texas Football Talk, please do that. If you care to join the Inner Circle, our membership program, please do that as well, because we're 20 days out from the season, and we couldn't be more fired up. If you can't tell, we've been doing as much as we can before Clint starts school again on the 22nd of this month, and before I go on vacation starting on Tuesday. I'll be on vacation from Tuesday all the way to September 14th, when I show up at Clint's front door with my bags packed and move down to San Antonio for a couple of months in season, because I'll be in military school. But excited you guys are with us. Again, please hit that like button. Got us up to 51 out of 110. So please continue to do that as this show goes on.
Wes said, I have confidence that yours will improve. If you throw a bad pass, then the defense capitalizes. That's what you want to see from the defense when a quarterback throws a bad pass. Hell yeah. I've watched a lot of tape. I've watched a lot of really going back and watch our games. Hell, I was digging into JMU film today, watching 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 𝗦𝗧𝗏. Yeah, I was watching him today, trying to get as much film in as and he's talking about not taking advantage of some of the bad passes. There were a couple of, we made quite a few interceptions at the beginning of the season last year, but there was a couple of them we could let them get away. So I think, yeah, every opportunity you have an opportunity to turn the other team's going to turn the ball over, you got to take advantage of that. And I think it's important to say that if you throw a bad pass, the defense came up with the interception. Again, somebody's got to lose for somebody to win in these scrimmages.
And guys, like, you read the stories coming out of the scrimmage yesterday. DeMarvin got a sack. Ovi got a sack. Vernon Broughton got a sack. Jalen Gilbo is getting tackles for loss from the cornerback position. Means they're probably doing something pretty aggressive on the defensive side for him to execute that, or that's probably what it was. Some kind of penetration from the corner position. Not sure if he was playing slot or boundary where he was at on the field, but not also breaking up. I saw a beautiful picture of him up in the air against, I believe it's Jordan Whittington. Looks like in the back of the end zone, going up for a contested ball. So Jalen Gilbo is one of those guys that we're going to be talking about here in the next couple of days when we drop the defensive back player or position preview show, because we really believe he's going to compete for time against Deshaun Jamison and Ryan Watts and the rest of that cornerback crew. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. Want to see some press man coverage. Talked about that yesterday, and want to see the defense be more aggressive, just like you talked about, penetrating gaps, not necessarily holding their water and having a stalemate with the offensive lineman, but penetrating and putting the offensive lineman back on their heels.
And we talked about this. If Nair's out for a substantial amount of time, and hopefully he's not, again, a lot of these things I get it. They have sources, but until Steve Sarkisian comes out tomorrow, and he will, after he gets the results from the MRIs and all this other stuff, and he has these wonderful, doctors and trainers that are there, at the University of Texas, look at these guys and they come out and tell you what's going on. Yeah, absolutely. But I think you have wide receivers that got to, you lose a player, you want to make sure you have enough depth or talent on the team to be able to next man up mentality. And I think this is where it starts at. You got Kane. I think he caught a long touchdown yesterday. From what we heard, Brennan Thompson, from some sources we have, Brennan Thompson played really well. And at the same time, you got a guy like Troy Amiri, keep him in bubble wrap at this point. Make sure you protect his knees. Because he gives you the same dynamic that Isaiah Nair would have had. He's just been injured for the last 2 years. We've seen what he has done in previous fall camps. He just didn't make it to the season. So you bubble wrap, Troy Amiri at this point, because he brings the same dynamic that Isaiah Nair would bring without the proven experience on the football field at the college level.
Yeah, because we got feedback from wide receivers when we did that show, when we talked about the empty personnel, right? 5 wide receivers. And we didn't bring up Tariq Milton. But again, this is a guy who's a transfer from Iowa State who was very productive there. Fell off last year. Don't know if it was injuries or changing the system, but now another guy in the program. And you talked about Kane, you talked about Thompson. We got Whittington still. We got Worthy still. I think we're in pretty good shape. Again, you're praying that it's not significant, that we get him back for game one. If not, then he doesn't miss the whole season. But I think in positions like running back and receiver, you have the depth to be able to handle it a little better. Now, if it was a linebacker, now you're having to look really, really deep and not as confident. If you're talking about tight end, that's a small room. It only has 4 guys, right? Then you're looking around and you're saying who is my next man up. But I think here you can identify a couple of players that you think, like Troy Ōmeara, like you said, two summers ago. That's exactly what we were talking about this time, because that was when Texas Football Talk was brand new, the summer of 2020, and that was the talk prior to the season, was Troy Ōmeara, and nobody could cover him, nobody could guard him. He was different. And so now's his time, and he sent out AGTG, all glory to God, yesterday. He's ready to go. So, like you said, keep him in the bubble wrap. The 3rd of September will come here soon, and hopefully we'll get our first look at Troy Ōmeara in the regular season in a Texas Longhorn uniform. But I'm just praying that Isaiah Neyor is also, because we met him. We met him, less than a month ago. And he's a great kid. He's a quiet kid. We got his story. He talked to us about, his the science teacher, recruiting him onto Arlington Lamar's football team. So you know him on a personal level. You want him to be good. But like you said, we'll find out probably tomorrow exactly the prognosis and where we go from here. But I think that's a position where you do have opportunities for others to step up, and I think they will.
Well, let's talk about this tight end room that's going to give you an option. Okay, I'm going to take you back a year. Okay, and this is not. I don't want to talk negative about you. What athletes you had on the field last year? So let's just talk about it real quick. All right, you had. I can't even think. Joshua Moore, Brewer, Wiley, and Washington, and help me out. Damn,
I don't know what you're going from tight end to receiver. Who you trying to call out?
No, I'm just trying to call out all the what you had last year versus what you got this year. I've got a brain fart. It must be 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon.
I think you got them all. You're talking about the tight ends. You got Brewer and Wiley. You're talking about the wide receivers. You got Washington, Kelvontae Dixon. You talked about I don't know,
Xavier Worthy.
You named enough.
Yeah,
for them to get the idea that you're improved.
But if you look at what you got this year, you got Billingsley, you got Jatavian Sanders, you've got Xavier Worthy coming back, you got a healthy Jordan Whittington. I don't think it's the woe is me to catastrophize about wide receiver at this particular position, because I think you have tight ends can make up for what you may lose with wide receivers as well.
Yeah, that's an idea. Is flex Jaleel Billingsley out? That's what I've read. Or you go more 12 personnel. You have one back, 2 tight ends, and then you keep Whittington and Worthy on the field. There's ways to go about, again, and I don't want this team to this show to turn into schemes to help, the loss of Isaiah Neyor when we don't know the significance of the injury and how long his timetable is going to be. But that's one of the things we have to discuss, being a part of this channel and being a part of the Longhorn fan base, because it may come to fruition on September 3rd. But I think that's one of the ways you can help yourself schematically is have Jaleel Billingsley and Jatavian Sanders on the field at the same time. Again, Troy Ōmeara, same size, speed, dynamic that Isaiah Neyor brings you. Just hasn't had an opportunity to be productive during the football season. But yeah.
I'm losing my train of thought today, man. Goodness gracious. Wow. I was thinking about the guys I was thinking about the guys that I want to bubble wrap just now. You know what I'm saying? Like Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, and Bijan Robinson probably shouldn't see much action between now and September 3rd. That's where I
They got one more scrimmage. I think you'll be okay with regular practices. It'll be game week. You really only got a couple more weeks of prep, and then it becomes game week for ULM, and you're going to get less and less of contact. You're going to have less and less practice time in pads because you want to recover bodies and that kind of stuff. They'll be ready. they'll have a plan. Again, we don't know the severity, and we'll figure it out, and they'll have a plan.
Yeah, Savion Red, man. Jordan Weddington was talking about Savion Red. She just brought this up. He's crossed between a running back and a wide receiver, man. I think you could do a lot of things with him. He's like I think he's like five. What I don't want to give his height.
Somebody said Devin Duvernay. If you get Devin Duvernay out of Savion Red, or a Devin Duvernay starter kit, I'll take that all day, every day.
Yeah.
Because Devin Duvernay was a monster. I don't think
he had the hands.
Devin Duvernay enough love. 0 drops in a full season.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I don't think we give him enough credit for the impact he had on Texas football when it was him, L.J. Humphrey, and Colin Johnson, because the first names I always say are L.J. Humphrey and Colin Johnson, and Dev Duvernay might have been the better of all three. Definitely the most productive in the NFL for sure.
Offensive side of the ball is honestly, if I'm worried or concerned about one side of the ball going into the season, it's definitely not the offensive side of the ball. I think if you get production out of the quarterback, and I'm going to say that production out of the quarterback, consistent production out of the quarterback that can hit their wide receivers when they're open, you're going to make a big difference. Because last year, going through these games, there were many a times where there was some throws that were thrown out of bounds or to wide receivers, because Steve Sarkisian is going to be able to scheme whoever he wants open. We talk about this all the time. He can run anybody out there. He can tell them where to go, a play, and they're going to be wide open. The quarterbacks just need to hit them when they're open. They need to figure out who the guy is that they need to throw it to pre-snap and get, because there were some throws last year that, that should have been on the money, that would have scored us touchdowns. We should have been up 28-10. I think I was telling Jeremy, I think we should have been up 35-10 the middle of the third quarter against Baylor, but we were unfortunately not, and we wound up losing that football game.
Yeah, I saw a video. Was it 90 seconds of quarterbacks missing Xavier Worthy running free in the middle of the secondary yesterday? So, yeah, I agree. And Frank was right. Our seasons are different if Sam could hit him more on those long balls, because, again, that wasn't Sam's forte, was arm strength and deep ball threat. It was, as Rob would say, bam, bam, Sam. And I watched him do that for the very first play against when Indianapolis played yesterday. The very shotgun snap, Sam Ehlinger sweep right, and he played pretty well. He played better out of all three quarterbacks that Indianapolis threw out there. But yeah, I would have loved for him to hit Dev on a lot more deep balls that year. But they're pretty successful with the Sugar Bowl win against Georgia. Just would have hoped they'd kept that momentum going.
Yeah, I think he threw for 2 touchdowns yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he played well.
Yeah. So what else you got on our private chat over there that I can't see?
Oh, I think we ran out of stuff, to be honest with you. Talked about Gilbo, talked about Ovi and Vernon Broughton's, sacks, talked about DeMar being sacked. We talked about, the quarterback play, and you talked about, the difference in years on campus and true freshmen. I think we covered everything we wanted to cover as far as what we wanted to hit on this show. And then we could just hit a couple more comments and then let these guys go on Saturday before you lose your train of thought.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Sunday. See, I lost my train of thought. I called it Saturday.
Yeah.
Let me let Jasmine out real quick.
Yeah. So he's changing his prediction from 10 wins from 10 wins to 9 wins now. I just don't want to think the sky is falling after the first scrimmage, because again, until I hear what Steve Sarkisian puts out tomorrow, how angry he looks, what he thinks about the quarterbacks, because he's not going to. Steve Sarkisian is not going to tell you what he does. He's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you or what you need to hear. And I think you'll hear it tomorrow. If he thought the quarterback sucked, he's going to let you know the quarterback sucked. If the quarterbacks played well, but they made some bad decisions, he's going to let you know that as well. Private chat, D-Train, that's we have a private chat thing over here on our what we call StreamYard. That's what we use to pull your comments up. And in our private chat, we're able to kind of put notes as we go along, so we can kind of stay on task. And then before we get in here, we have a list of things we want to get through before we start, taking on questions. Working Man said, I'm banking on the Texas D line. I hope you're right, man. I hope you're right. Actually, somebody brought up, I think a little bit earlier ago. Let me see if I can find that one, maybe a little bit further up. Not sure. But somebody was talking about DTD, man, Tucker Dorsey. And I can tell you that I actually went back and watched some JMU stuff today. I think they played Sam Houston State University last year in the semifinals of the FCS. The year before that, they played, I think it was North Dakota State. That's the Bisons, right? Ugly uniforms, like green and yellow uniforms up there. Oh, it's terrible to watch. But think about him. He's aggressive. I'll give you all the positives and I'll give you the one negative, man. He is aggressive. There is no false move. He can, like Jeremy, I think Jeremy said this before, he doesn't beat blocks. He finds a way around a block to get to the hole in which he wants to get to. A problem that Texas has had, and we talked about this in, I think, a previous show, is that we had a problem with running quarterbacks. And having a spot on those quarterbacks is something where I don't know if we just didn't have one on them or they just run free for whatever reason. He is a really, really, really good spy on quarterbacks, man. He sits back there. They'll drop him in coverage. The only negative I have about Tucker Dorsey, and I'm assuming he figures this out, or however he does it, because I think he had like 120 tackles last year, is that he's short, so he can't see over the line. So I don't know if he can figure out if the ball's being handed off or the quarterback still has the ball. But for some reason, his flow, he understands because of his communication. He understands on most plays what they're about to run in most situations. And I think that's what allows him to be aggressive and make the right move versus not be able to see what's going on in the back and not make that right move.
Because we talked about him in our backers show, instinctiveness, right? To be instinctive, you have to do film study. And so what he does probably is understands alignment, formations, and scheme, what the offense is trying to do against him. Then he follows the flow. Even if you can't see you can still, even if you can't see the back has the ball, you still follow the flow of the line of scrimmage. And if you're talking about no missteps, then obviously not much misdirection, right? So if the flow of the offensive line is going left, but the running back is misdirected and heads right, he's able to see that piece. So I think instinctiveness comes from film study and understanding what the offense is trying to do to you, and that's what puts you in that position. Again, he got picks, he got tackles for loss, he got 120 tackles. Like, very productive player at JMU. I didn't watch the same film you did, but just everything that I'd heard, everything that I'd read, and then of course his statistical performance kind of backs up everything. So yeah, I'll hop on JMU. Probably after this show, we're going to go to HEB and spend some money. But after that, I'll probably come home and watch the same games that you did. But that's with being a senior, having that experience, being in the film room, understanding what the offense is trying to do to you. And that's what I think, again, that's what the Texas coaches see in him that's going to allow them to do the things they're going to try to do with DeMarvion Overshown, which is put him in as many different spots against as many different matchups to take advantage of his skill set, which is going to be very, very promising, and I think good for that defense. That's why we say we think this linebacker core is going to take a big leap, because we already know Jaylan Ford's potential, how he played last year, and how we think he's grown. DeMarvion being, versatile and doing different things, and then the steady influence of Tucker Dorsey in the middle. Again, I saw a picture with his eyes that was put on Twitter. Somebody took some pictures of the scrimmage yesterday, and I remember that look. I seen that look out of a couple of good football players back when I played. And I understand it, intensity, focus, and I really love that picture. I don't know who took it, but that's what a middle linebacker looks like to me.
He likes to paint his face too. He likes to paint his face.
Man, I'm down with that too.
I think it was Sam. I don't remember if it was Sam Houston State or if it was North Dakota State, but his entire face was painted all the way down. But you could tell he as a middle linebacker for that defense, you could tell he was controlling that defense. He was moving guys around. He knew exactly where he goes. And when you talked about it, when DeMarvion Overshown moves, down to edge, which it sounded like he played at the edge yesterday and got a sack from that position, Jaylan Ford, that's, I'm not going to say he's not experienced, but doesn't have the experience that Tucker Dorsey has. He could look over Jaylan Ford and they can have that conversation about what he's seeing because of everything that he's seen over the last 3 years, playing football. You think he's played in 38 games, 22 is what he started, I think is what I read today. So dude's aggressive, man. We need a linebacker that's aggressive, that can hit the hole, that can fill those gaps. So
agreed. Yeah, and I think they all bring a different skill set and a problem set for the offense. Like I say, the speed of Ford, being able to carry receivers and tight ends and running backs down the field. DeMarvion's ability to blitz from many different aspects. And then, like I say, just that steady Tucker Dorsey of being able to shed blocks, make tackles on the ball carrier. Again, we want that first contact to be at the line of scrimmage or behind it with these linebackers. Don't want it 3 or 4 yards down the field when the at the second level when the running back has a chance to make you miss or bust a tackle. So be aggressive. Use these guys for their skill sets and enhance this defense.
Yeah. So J.W. Crunch said here about Collins. It sounds like he didn't even play in the scrimmage because of injury. Really don't know the time frame of his injury. There's been some speculation about 4 to 6 weeks, but you don't know when that started. So is that 2 weeks ago, 4 to 6 weeks, and you have an opportunity to come back, 2 weeks into the football season? Don't want to do that. But to me, yeah, Alfred Collins would definitely be a big loss. When he shows up, man, on the football field. And he's one of the guys we were looking at defensive end.
And that's why I asked this earlier, because, again, there's whatever site you go to, whatever source you have says something different about timetable or severity. And that's why I said a little bit earlier, I need to know if it was contact, non-contact. Because generally your contact injuries aren't significant. If it's non-contact, especially with running backs and receivers, generally that does mean something more significant, like an ACL tear or something more severe. I'm not going to speculate on what the injury is. Again, we don't have MRI results, haven't heard from the team. But if it is true that it's a non-contact injury, that does worry me more than an in-play incident. I'll say that.
What else we got here?
Yeah, they were talking about. So somebody thought that Ijah Hall got booted off the team. No, he was just indefinitely suspended. We covered that yesterday. So don't know the timetable of his return to the team. Don't know what conversations he's had with the coaching staff about that. He might have certain mile markers or landmarks that he must do to be reinstated back on the team. But no, he has not been booted from the University of Texas football team. He has been suspended indefinitely. And again, when you hear something like Nair possibly going down, again, he's another guy that we haven't discussed as possibly. We talked about Amir. We talked about, the freshman. We talked about Milton. But Ijah Hall is, again, another guy. If he does what he's supposed to do, he gets reinstated, is another weapon in that wide receiver room that could fill some of that void. Again, I don't think you're going to replace a guy like him. Again, he's on the Biletnikoff Award watch for a reason. But, yeah, I mean, that's another guy.
Yeah, from what we understand, Troy Amiri's out there practicing. He said he's all good to go, or on his, I think that's what it meant. Hell, I don't know. It could be meant a couple of things.
AGTT to me means all glory to God. It could mean all good to go. You guys.
But I think he's good to go, man. I think Troy Amiri is set to go. I think he's practicing. So it's one of those guys that's going to have to step up, man. 6'3", 210 pounds, 215 pounds. Definitely needs somebody to step up at this particular point. Somebody said something about yours throwing 3 picks. I don't know. I've seen that he threw 1 interception to Jamison, and he threw a couple of other ones that were in some dangerous spots. But as far as three interceptions, I haven't seen that.
Nice to see Ben Reason here. I'm going to shout him out. Ben retweets all of our, videos and Twitter. He has his own Facebook site. Ben, please put that Facebook site down in the comments box so folks can go join that. It's Texas Sports and Recruiting. Great information over there on his Facebook page. He allows us to drop links to our videos in that so they have wider visibility. So thank you, Ben, for supporting our channel, retweeting our stuff, and allowing us a platform to drop our videos in after they're completed. Really appreciate you, buddy.
We got 156 people watching right now. We are 26 likes from 100. I would love to get 100 likes before we get off here in a few short minutes, man. But damn, 155 people watching here on a Sunday. Well, that makes our day. I can tell you that our channel has seen significant growth over the last really 2 months. Is month and a half with subscribers. And I think me and Jeremy actually yesterday, this is we actually had that morning live yesterday. Before we got on here, I think it was right at about 5,300 views yesterday, 5,300 views. which would have been our largest live outside of one of our post games. And y'all know how our post games go, especially the Arkansas. I think Arkansas hit like damn near 9,000
yeah.
views for Arkansas. So that was actually our largest live yesterday. So for those that actually watched it, viewed it, liked it, and subscribed during that, we really, really, really do appreciate it. All it means is that our channel is growing. People are getting excited about the football program. People are getting excited about football right around the corner. We're 20 days. So if you have not subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. I think me and Jeremy over the last 9 days have put out either, I think between the videos and the lives have done it, I think like 8 shows over the last, I think 9 days. So it's been, you can tell that me and Jeremy have grown kids that are out of the house, either don't have a whole bunch of responsibility or, at this moment, I actually go back to school on the 22nd of August. It may slow down a little bit after that. We'll see. But until then, we're going to be putting out content.
Yeah, and that's what we intend to do. And we'll pull up Candace's comment here in just a second. But that's it. Adversity. Let's see how we handle it. Next man up mentality. Again, you're on a college football team at the University of Texas. Like, that has to be the way you look at it, Robert, and I totally agree. Again, competing for positions. We talked about that since we came back. Is we want guys competing for positions each and every practice, each and every rep. If the man in front of you that's beating you out for the job happens to go down for injury or suspension, or again, adversity in the end game, targeting, right? Targeting penalty on the safety. Hey, you're out for a half. We'll see you next week. Guy has to go in and do his job, right? So same thing, except for now you got a little bit more preparation time. You got 2 weeks to take that job, learn as much as you can, dive into the coaches, dive into the material, dive into the scheme, dive into the film, dive into your teammates to be a better football player each and every snap. But yeah, that's how I handle it. That's how, if I was a coach, that's how I want my team to handle it. And if I was a teammate, that's exactly how I'd want them to handle it. But appreciate that comment, Robert. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah. You want to bring up Candace's comment real quick?
Yeah, because everybody knows Clint started school. I had military training I had to attend in the month of May, and the build up for that kind of took a couple of months of long days. And like you said, he was deep in a master's program and still is. So we took basically from the month of December, National Signing Day, up until May. You didn't hear much from Texas Football Talk, but the moment that we came back, the day that 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘 committed, or a couple of days after he committed, with our first recruiting show, everybody that had been supporting us for that time that before we'd been off was right back. And again, Clint says that we've done 8 shows. The reason why is because you guys motivate us to come on here, give you a forum to speak, give Texas fans a forum to speak. And that's why we do what we do. And like he said, it's easier for us because I got work, I got the gym, I got to go shopping with Colleen. And other than that, this is what we do. We live and breathe Texas football. We watch film. We take notes. We buy every publication, preseason publication there is. Burn up as much paper as I possibly can, taking notes from film sessions to come on here and share what we feel like Texas has to do to get back on the map and make a dent in college football in both the Big 12 and on the national landscape, and just like supporting the program.
Yeah. So assuming Troy is healthy, what do you guys expect from him scheme wise? The same thing that Isaiah Nair was going to do, man. He should be your threat
security blanket.
Your security blanket, your deep threat, man. Like 50-50. Go up there, be athletic, man, at 6'3" and jump over the cornerback that's 5'11" and make those plays down the field. That's exactly what he should be doing in this scheme. Just like the same thing that Isaiah Nair did in the spring game with Quinn Ewers, man, when they threw that what was it, a post route, long, skinny, way post route across the middle there. But yeah, that's what you want to see from Isaiah in this scheme. It's the same thing that Isaiah Nair was going to bring.
Hang on just a second. I want to pull Mark's comment up real quick. Because up north, a little bit higher in the comments box, Nair was brought in here because the other guys couldn't step up. Again, Mark, I don't know if you watch Texas football, because I'm going to get a little angry right quick. Because Clint went over who exited this program last year, right? Josh Moore left. Marcus Washington left. Besides Worthy and Whittington. Name me another spot at receiver that hasn't been replaced. Nair was brought in here because he was a good football player. Nair was brought in here because he produced at the University of Wyoming and wanted to come back home and play football. Name me another wide receiver who didn't perform last year that's currently on this roster. And the next thing is a meaningless scrimmage. These guys got to get preparation reps in before they play University of Louisiana Monroe and start the season. You can't get that in position drills. You can't get that in individuals. You have to snap, go 100% against mano a mano to get a true representation of what your scheme, what your players do, and how they produce. So that's enough about that. It's not a meaningless scrimmage. It helps somebody get a job. It helps somebody lose their job. And so that's the last thing I'll say about Isaiah Nair and why he came to the University of Texas.
All right, so let's go over here. So Whittington didn't perform last year in his injury-prone. Nair, in my opinion, was brought in to hedge that possibility of another Whittington injury. Again, if you're hedging injuries, yeah, you need to have depth, right? You have to have depth. But it's one thing to Whittington will tell you that prior to this, you go listen to Jordan Whittington. He did, as a football player, he didn't do everything he needed to do to make sure that his body was in tip-top shape. And this is what he's been doing. He's the first person in the gym and the last person to leave every day to make sure that he makes it through a season. And to say that he did not perform last year, he was your leading receiver.
The best receiver.
Best receiver, leading all the way up to the Oklahoma game until they got injured. And then Xavier Worthy and Joshua Moore had to take on that receiving role. So I'm not going to sky is falling. It's crazy because I was actually going to send out a tweet last night about catastrophizing, right, about these injuries, because that's what we love to do as Longhorn fans, right? Is catastrophize. We lose a recruit, catastrophize. We get an injury, catastrophize. Again, it was one scrimmage. We do have injuries. Steve Sarkisian is going to talk to those injuries tomorrow, and then we see where we go from there. If the University of Texas, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing because I pray that these guys that get healthy and they are able to come back and play football again, right? But at the University of Texas, you shouldn't have to say, okay, one guy went down. Oh my God, the sky's falling. Who's going to replace them? Because that's where it really starts at, right? This is why you recruit 4 and 5 stars that are able to come in and play significant snaps right away. So if you're concerned about our recruiting over the last couple of years and what we brought in on the offensive side of the ball, or on the defensive side of the ball, then there should be concern. Obviously, the experience is not at the same level as of the guy that you may be missing. But again, it's a next person up mentality. And I'm not going to catastrophize. I think you have the much needed talent on the 40 acres to replace what it may have gotten injured, and you move forward with it. I think the only one that can't not be replaced is Roschon Johnson's leadership on the football field. Honestly, leadership on the football field. That leadership is not going to go away if he's sitting on the sideline. He now becomes assistant coaches. The guy walks off the field, he's chewing their ass just like a coach. He gets in their ear. That's who Roschon Johnson is. But to think that Jonathan Brooks can't stand up and do that same role, depending on what it is, or Jaden Blue can't get some time, or Keelan Robinson can't get some time. To me, it's University of Texas shouldn't be in that specific situation. You get injured, you replace them, and then you continue on like you should be playing.
I appreciate this. It's not a meaningless scrimmage. Come with the energy, man. I just played ball all my life, and I know what scrimmages allow you to do and what practices allow you to do. I was the worst practice player I've ever met in my life. Like I was lazy at practice, but put shoulder pads, helmet, allow me to compete full speed against somebody across the line of scrimmage, man on man, and that means something different. It allows you, and it means something different to the coaches. It means something different to the players. Why do you think these high school teams do that? 2 weeks out, every major program is scrimmaging somebody across town because they have to see how their team performs against somebody else, and they cannot get that look in practice. And like I said, that's the last thing I'm going to say about it because there's no such thing as a meaningless rep. There's no such thing as a meaningless game, and there damn sure is no such thing as a meaningless scrimmage. So, yeah, I'll come with that energy. But thanks for noticing. I'm sweating again. We sweated yesterday. I'm sweating again.
Yeah, injuries are injuries are going to happen. Football is a full contact sport. It's a full contact sport. You know, now the non-contact injuries, those are the tough ones, man. Contact injuries, you know, being a full contact sport, you know, there's going to be injuries. And unfortunately, we had a rash of injuries in the first scrimmage. That's all. Again, Steve Sarkisian will speak to it. He'll tell us exactly what's going on with these guys tomorrow, and then we'll know exactly moving forward.
Yesterday was fire. Today is fire. There's 155 folks in here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. That's the last time I'm going to ask for it because we have enjoyed it as much as I rant and holler, and I don't know how loud it comes across. I hope it's not that bad for you guys listening. But we are passionate and we do care, and we did play, and some of that stuff comes out sometimes when. We take comments and questions, but that's the reason why we take comments and questions is because your opinion matters, our opinion matters. We may differ on it, but you're going to get the juice regardless. Yeah, please hit that like button. Please hit that start button. Please come back.
You know, it's one of these things. It's, again, me and Jeremy do this, and then all of a sudden we get comments, and especially after the post games, those are rough that you lose 5 games in a row. Those are absolutely rough, like rough. Because, again, we're fans too, man, and we start going down the rabbit hole of negativity too. It's not like I'm not sitting here beating the horn saying, boom, 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 there shouldn't be any concern at all. Absolutely. Until the proof is in the pudding and we see what the University of Texas football program puts out on the field this year, there is going to be some concern at each level of the field, man. You know, you got a Heisman running back, a guy in Bijan Robinson that's really good. You don't know what you have at quarterback. Right now, your offensive line is a mishmash of experience versus, you know, true freshmen, very talented football players. You know, you have a wide receiver room that does have depth. It does. If you go back and look at previous year after year after year, this room has a lot of depth and a lot of talent. The experience, not quite there outside of Whittington and Worthy. Tight ends look much better. I love exactly where the defensive backfield is, having Janae Barron, Anthony Cook, Jaron Thompson. If he steps it up and he has more splash plays, I feel really good about where we're at. Go listen to our linebacker preview. You'll hear that we feel really good about that. Defensive line, not exactly sure where we're at. Edge, not exactly sure where we're at. So there are some unanswered questions. There are some thoughts. Not going to drink the burnt orange Kool-Aid. Can't wait for September 3rd to get here. Can't get here fast enough with all the other drama we got on. I don't want to hear anything else out of scrimmage 2 or 3 at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like blackout. Put that shit in the what do they call it? The indoor practice facility, and don't let nobody in there but the coaches, and have Steve Sarkisian say, hey, you're no longer a source to anybody. You know what I'm saying? Do not put out any other information moving forward. Somebody called it rat poison. You know what I'm saying? Rat poison on here. So we'll see. But
very cool. But like you just said, and this is probably the last one before we take off. There's, like you said, there's positions on this football team that can handle injuries or setbacks better than others. One of those positions, like Frank says, is not the offensive line. You start hearing multiple injuries at the offensive line. And again, I think that's a talented group. We talked about the freshmen. We talked about the 5 returning contributors, and we feel like there's some depth there. But if you start losing multiple players at this position and at others, like you said, defensive line, edge, tight end, it's not a big room. It's only got 4 or 5 guys in it. If you start losing multiple guys in those positions, then you could start really reassessing and maybe have to move guys around, like you've seen Texas have to do before, but like move a guy from the defensive line to the offensive line to the defensive line, just for bodies. We're not there yet. This is if these injuries are true and they hold them out for a specific amount of time, running back is a position that you're pretty good at. I'll say pretty good. I think they're great, but pretty good at. Receivers, a position you're pretty good at. I think it's the deepest wide receiver room in the conference. That doesn't change. But there are positions on the football field. Hopefully Junior's injury isn't that significant and he doesn't miss a whole lot of time, because I think there was a plan there. I think Kyle Flood had a plan there with Junior and how the line would then fit around him if he happened to win that center job. But like you said, there's areas on this football team that they can handle injuries better than others. And we're not gonna speculate on once Steve Sarkisian comes out tomorrow and tells us a timeline for these players, then yeah, we'll come back on, do a show and tell you how it truly affects the football team long term. But I think we did a good job of capturing that today, but we may have to come back and talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so a couple of guys to look for on that defensive line are probably Jamon Tapp and Justice Finkley at the edge positions. I think again you have some talented freshmen that are on this football team, and it's important they're starting to find themselves in that 2 deep. It tells you they're supplanting guys that have been here for a while that may have reached their ceiling. So again, you're creating depth with, the spring, with the fall, with the summer, with these scrimmages. You're creating depth, and you're figuring out who you're going to run out there with your ones, who you're going to run out there with your twos, who is going to replace this person, who's going to replace this person. So I think it's absolutely important. So exciting show, man. Exciting show.
Always is. Always is. And it's going to get more exciting as the season gets closer. 20 days. One thing I didn't mention is Jordan Matthews-Eve, the cornerback from Woodlawn, Louisiana, will be committing tomorrow. So be looking for us to tweet something out after we possibly get some good news. He's looking at Tennessee and Michigan. So the 23 class defensive back group may get a little bit deeper with Derek Williams, Malik Muhammad, Jamel Johnson, and possibly the corner out of Louisiana joining this class tomorrow. So let's hope that Jordan Matthews decides Texas, decides burn orange versus Tennessee orange, or Michigan, what they say up there, go blue. Hopefully he decides to choose the good guys, and we have some good news tomorrow on the recruiting front.
I think I'm going to stay on Twitter for the rest of the afternoon. I'll probably go over there tomorrow. I'll probably go over to Twitter. Actually, I may send this tweet out shortly after this. And then I'm going to stay off there because I'm not going to do the catastrophizing skies falling situation today.
I did talk to him about this too. Keelan Robinson at the Burn Orange Heroes thing. I think he's a hell of a special teams player, and hopefully he does get his hands on a couple kicks this year. I'll leave with that.
Yeah. All right. We appreciate you joining us on this Sunday. It's getting exciting. 20 days out, a couple more Saturdays, and we'll actually be playing ball and less speculating and more seeing at that point on what's actually happening there in Austin and on the 40 acres of the University of Texas. But we appreciate you listening as always. Find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TX Football Talk. Have a wonderful evening, and hook 'em.
Hook 'em.